Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Simplified Basic Concepts. In this video, I'm going to discuss about delegation of authority. Till now we have discussed in organizing that organizing is all about arranging the activities and positions of individual as per their roles in the organization. In the due process, we get organizational structure. We have discussed about span of control, in which we saw that span of control means number of subordinates a superior can manage or handle. Now, delegation of authority is a related topic. We have discussed that manager has got several responsibilities, and at times to reduce the burden of the work which the manager has, he authorizes his subordinates to do some part of his work. Now, to do certain part of the work, certain authority and responsibility is required. The manager, when he gives the work to his subordinate, along with that, he gives those authorities and responsibilities also to the subordinate, which is required to complete the work. This is the main concept of delegation of authority. Right? So in delegation of authority, the manager doesn't completely give his authority to the subordinates. It's only a share of manager's authority and responsibility with which the subordinate does the work which is given to him. Right? So the process of delegation starts from the top management, who has got the total responsibility for achievement of the goal. Delegation is the downward transfer of formal authority from superior to subordinate. Downward transfer means the manager downwardly transfer the authority and responsibility to his subordinate. Now, if we see the definition, it says that delegation of authority is an organizational process, right, where the manager divides his work among the subordinates and give them, that is the subordinates, the responsibility to successfully complete the respective task or work. Along with responsibility, the manager also shares authority. Authority means the power to take decisions with the subordinate so that the responsibilities can be completed efficiently. Now, features of delegation of authority. Delegation is a process where manager delegates tasks to the subordinates in sequential order. This we discussed earlier. Secondly, it is an ongoing or continuous process where manager continues to delegate tasks to subordinate to achieve organizational goals. Right? So this is not one-time activity or one-time process which the manager does to his subordinate. It is an ongoing or continuous process where the manager keeps on delegating a part of his work to the subordinates. Right? The manager can only delegate authority to perform that work to the subordinate. So the manager cannot delegate his entire authority to the subordinate, neither can he delegate those authorities to his subordinate which the manager himself doesn't have. He'll only delegate that part of authority to the subordinate which is required to complete the work which is given to the subordinate by the manager. Now, the manager remains accountable for the tasks assigned to the subordinates and are answerable to the superiors for its performance. So it says that the manager gets the work from his superior, right? So for an example, let's take that the CEO gave certain work to the manager to complete, and the manager delegated authority to his subordinate to complete a part of that work. Now, the manager is accountable. Accountable means answerable for the entire work to his superior. That is, the manager is accountable for completion of the work to the CEO. That part of the work also which he has delegated to his subordinate. So let's take an example that a manager got a work from his superior CEO. Now the manager delegated 20% of the work to his subordinate. Now the manager is responsible for the 80% of the work which he does himself, plus the 20% of the work which he delegated to the subordinate. So, in a whole, the manager is completely answerable and accountable for the entire work which is given to him by his superior. Right? Now, being answerable or accountable for the work means the outcome of the work, whether the outcome is up to the point or not, whether the outcome is negative, whether the outcome is positive, for the entire thing the manager is responsible. Right? Now, authority once delegated can be further expanded or withdrawn by the superior depending on the situation. Now, we discussed that when work is being given or assigned by the manager to his subordinate, authority is also given or delegated to the subordinate to complete that work. Now, once the authority which is delegated to the subordinate by the manager can be expanded, that is, can be increased, or it can be withdrawn, that is, can be taken back from the subordinate. It completely depends on the manager or the superior who thinks whatever is suitable in that situation will do according to that. So if he thinks that it's better to withdraw the authority and take back the work which is delegated to the subordinate, he can do that. And at times he can also increase the amount of the work which he has given to his subordinate, right? The manager cannot delegate the authority which he himself does not possess. Also, he cannot delegate his full authority to the subordinate. So this we discussed earlier, that the manager can only delegate that part of authority or that much of authority which is required to complete the work which he assigned to his subordinate. He cannot give his full authority to the subordinate, and neither he can give extra authority to the subordinate which the manager himself doesn't possess. Right? Now, the next point is the delegation of authority may be oral or written, or may be specific or general. So, the delegation of authority can be in any form. It can be oral, it can be in written form, it can be specifically mentioned or generally mentioned. It completely depends on the organizational policy. The delegation is an art and must act in accordance with all the fundamental rules of the organization. So the delegation of authority must act in accordance with the fundamental rules of the organization. So this means that delegation of authority can vary from organization to organization. Now, what will it vary in? It may vary that the delegation of authority in some organization can be in oral form, in some organization it can be in written form, or specifically mentioned or generally mentioned. So it varies and depends on organization, right? Now, why is delegation of authority important? See, we discussed at the beginning that delegation of authority is done to reduce the burden of manager, right? So when the burden of the manager is reduced, he is able to concentrate on non-routine jobs. Focusing on non-routine jobs by the superior increases their efficiency, right? Next point is motivation. Since delegation indicates confidence of the manager in their subordinates, and so the subordinate feels very important and recognized when they are delegated authority and assigned some work by their superiors. So this motivates the subordinates to do work. The third one is it develops the subordinates. Now, when a work is assigned to the subordinate, he's being given the authority to do the work, he's being given the responsibility to complete the work. So it develops the subordinates, because the subordinate in due process of completion of the work makes decision. They are more involved in solving the problems, right? So it enhances the managerial skills of the subordinates. So it's kind of development for the subordinate. Then the last one is better distribution of work in the group. As every employee gets adequate authority to act, it leads to prompt decision making by the subordinates, and it thus again helps in development of the subordinate, and the work gets better distributed in the organization. The work or the decision making power is not only concentrated with the top management or the superiors, right? Now, elements of delegation. Elements means the essential parts, right? So whenever it's written that what are the elements of delegation, it means the essential parts of delegation. So the elements or essential parts of delegations are authority, responsibility, and accountability. These three are main parts which will be used again and again in the delegation chapter. So authority basically means the power or right to give orders. So when we say that the superior have more authority than the subordinate, or the manager has more authority than his subordinate, so it means that the manager has more power and right to give orders and instructions to his subordinates, right? Then second one is responsibility. Responsibility means obligation to perform the duty. So along with authority, that is when you have power, comes the responsibility. Responsibility means you are obliged to perform the duty which is being given to you, right? Accountability means answerability for the outcomes of job. So whatever job is being given or whatever job an individual has to do in an organization, he is always accountable for the outcomes of the job. That is, he is always accountable, answerable for the outcomes. That is, whether the result which is coming out after the performance of the job, it is negative, that is, it is being done in a wrong way, or it is positive, that is, the person is able to achieve the target. For everything, an individual will be accountable if he has to perform the job, right? So authority is positional, that is, higher a person in an organizational hierarchy, the more authority he will have. Authority means power, which we discussed earlier. So the superior who has more authority gives orders to his subordinates, right? And he expects the subordinates to act in accordance with the decision which he has taken. So the authority at the top level is more, so it flows, that is, the authority flows from top to bottom. So the superior has always more authority over his subordinates. In responsibility, the delegation also involves transfer of responsibility, right? And responsibility has got bottom to top flow. That is, the subordinate is always responsible to his superior. So for effective delegation, the authority must complement responsibility. That is, if the authority is more than responsibility, it can lead to misuse, right? So it means that if the authority is more, means if the power given to a person is more and the responsibility, that is his obligation to do the work, is less, then what will he do? He'll misuse that power, right? And if in case the responsibility is more than the authority, then it will lead to incapability of completion of the work. And if the responsibility is more, which is being given to the subordinate, then, and the power or authority given to him is less, then again what will happen? He has got more responsibilities, but he has got less power. So he'll not be able to complete the work properly because he is not having that sufficient power to complete and take decisions. Right? So there should be always a balance between authority and responsibility. So the amount or the quantity of authority which is being delegated to a subordinate, the responsibility should be in balance with it. Right? Then last one is accountability. The superior who delegates a part of his work to the subordinate is still accountable for the delegated task. Right? This we discussed earlier, that whenever the manager delegates a part of his work to his superior, that doesn't mean that he'll not be answerable for the result of the task. The superior who has originally got the task to do, he will always be answerable for the outcomes of the task, whether he has delegated to his subordinate or not. Right? So this further means that delegation involves no transfer of accountability. Accountability is not transferred. That is, if a manager has got the work to do, he will always be answerable for the outcomes, whether he has delegated the work to his subordinate or not. Right? And accountability flows upward. That is, the subordinate is accountable to his superior. Now let's see the difference between authority and responsibility. Authority is the legal right of a person or a superior to command his subordinates. Like we discussed earlier, authority comes with position. Higher a person in organizational hierarchy, more will his authority be. Right? So it is the legal right which a person gets from the position which he holds in the organization. And responsibility is the commitment from the subordinate to perform the work assigned to him. So authority one simply gets as soon as he joins the organization, right? So whatever position you have in the organization, automatically you will have authority related to it. But responsibility is the commitment which a subordinate gives to his superior to complete or perform the work which is being given to the subordinate. Then authority is attached to the formal position of an employee in the organization, right? This we discussed now, that authority is always attached to the formal position, means the rank or the position of an individual in organizational hierarchy, right? And responsibility arises of superior subordinate relationship in which the subordinate agrees to carry out duty given to him. Then the third one is authority can be delegated by a superior to his subordinate, but responsibility cannot be delegated. It is assigned. So this is very important point. Yet students at times get confused. They use the word delegation for both authority and responsibility, but that is completely wrong. Authority can be delegated from the superior to his subordinate, but responsibility is always assigned by a superior to his subordinate. So one must always remember this, that authority is delegated and responsibility is assigned. right? Now, the next point is authority flows from top to bottom. Authority flowing from top to bottom means that top positions will always have more authority and they will give or pass on or delegate the authority to their subordinates. Right? So flowing from top to bottom means the top position employees will have more authority and they'll delegate or give authority to their subordinates. And in responsibility, it flows from bottom to top. That is, the subordinates will be more responsible. They have got more responsibility to do the work. They have got more responsibility to do the work. That is why it's written it flows from bottom to top. And the next point is authority requires ability to give orders. So authority means the power and it requires the ability to give orders, right? So if you have authority, you have the power to give orders to your subordinates. However, responsibility requires ability to follow orders. So if you have got a responsibility to do, that means you should have the ability to follow the orders which is being given to you by your superior. Right? Then the last one is, in authority, the objective is to make decisions and implement it. Whereas in responsibility, the objective is to execute the duties. Execute means perform the duties assigned by the superior. Right? Now, I hope the difference between the two is clear now. Now the process of delegation, this is very important yet very simple, because in process of delegation there are just 4 steps. The first one is assignment of task, second is delegation of decision making authority, third is creation of commitment, and fourth one is creation of accountability. See, assignment of task means, as we discussed earlier, that the basic funda of delegation of authority means to reduce the burden of manager. The manager at times have got lots of work to do. He cannot concentrate on the non-routine jobs. So what happens? The manager delegates or assigns some part of his work to his subordinates, right? So what the manager will do, he will first see the task, the total task, and then he will divide his tasks into parts. Now, the manager will keep that part of task to himself which he can handle, right? And then the other parts he will give to the subordinate. So, let's take an example. If a manager has got a task, let's take that 100%. So, he kept 50% of the task. That is, 50% of the task he'll perform himself. 50% of the task he assigned to his subordinates to do, right? So, the first step in delegation of authority is to determine what tasks subordinates have to do. The capabilities of each subordinate should be matched with the assigned task, right? So this is very important, that the assigned task should always be in synchronization with the capabilities of the subordinates, right? Then the next step is delegation of decision making authority. So in the second step, authority is given to the subordinates, which is required to implement the relevant decisions to perform the assigned duties to them. Now, in the first step, we saw that it will be found out that which part of or how much work will be assigned to the subordinates. Now, it has been decided, it has been clear that 50% of the work will be assigned to the subordinates. Now, the second step is to perform 50% of the work, how much authority should be given to the subordinate. Now, that is being determined here. When that is being determined, it becomes very clear from the manager's side that to perform 50% of the task, this much authority will be delegated to the subordinates. Now, the authority which is delegated to the subordinate should be related to the task. And if the task changes, the authority should also change. That is, if the task requires any change in the authority which is being delegated to the subordinate by the superior, that should change accordingly, right? Now, the third step is creation of commitment. Here, commitment is created on the part of the subordinate to perform the duties satisfactorily, right? The subordinate to whom the task is assigned is morally responsible to do his best to complete the task, and he must accept the responsibility for timely completion of the task as well as for the quality of the output, right? Then the last one is creation of accountability. According to Newman, Summer and Warren, by accepting an assignment, a subordinate gives his superior a promise. Promise to do what? To do his best in carrying out his duties. The subordinates are morally bound to complete the task. He can be held accountable, that is answerable for the results, but the manager remains ultimately accountable or answerable to their superiors for successful completion of the task. So here what is happening in the last step is when a manager assigns tasks to the subordinate, delegates authority to him, the subordinate commits or gives moral commitment that he'll be doing the task fruitfully and satisfactorily. At last what happens, who all are responsible or who all will be responsible for the outcome of the task? Now this is very important. See, the subordinate to whom the task is being assigned, he will be accountable for sure, right? Because ultimately he is doing or performing the task. So he'll be accountable for the outcome of the result. But the manager who originally got the work from his superior and who delegated the task, he himself will also be responsible for the part of the task which is delegated. Right? So here two people are responsible. One, the subordinate who is actually performing the job or doing the work which is being assigned to him. Right? The first one, he is being answerable for the outcome of the result. And secondly, the manager who delegated the part of his work or assigned the job to his subordinate. He will also be responsible for the outcome of his job. Now, the subordinate is being accountable or answerable to the manager who delegated the job to him, right? Or who assigned the job to him. And the manager is accountable or answerable to his superior who gave the work to him to do. Clear? Now, this was process of delegation of authority. Now, finally, what are the advantages? First one is it helps in effective functioning. Delegation helps the managers to give part of his work to his subordinates, right? So part of the work is being given to the subordinate by the manager. So what will happen? The manager can devote more time on important areas like leadership, organizational planning and coordination. So this will help in effective functioning. Second is quick decisions. The process of delegation makes it possible to make decisions right near the center of operation. Right near the center of operation means when the subordinate is being assigned a job, so the subordinate is doing the job, but the subordinate also has the authority, that is the power to take decisions. So what he'll do is when he is doing a job and he sees if some deviation has occurred, then he has got the power to take decisions. Right? So that is what it says, right near the center of operation. That is when a subordinate is performing the job, he then and there can take the decisions because he has got the power, he has got the authority. He doesn't have to go back to his manager always and take permission from him to make decisions if any deviation occurs. So that is why quick decision is being helpful in process of delegation. The next one is reduction in managerial load. Delegation relieves the manager of the need to attend the minor or routine type of duties. Now, this helps the manager to devote greater attention and effort towards more important duties. Right? The next one is delegation is a motivational factor. The subordinate becomes more responsible, more dedicated to their work, and they feel proud of being given such authority and responsibility, and which ultimately boosts their morale to do the work. Right? So motivation is very important for subordinates. This is one important topic which I have discussed earlier in my previous videos. So delegation is a very strong motivational factor, right? Then the last one is aid to employee developments. Delegation ensures that employees in the organization develop their capabilities to undertake new and more challenging jobs, and it also promotes job satisfaction. Now I mentioned this earlier that the amount of job assigned to the subordinate by the superior should always be relevant to the capability of the subordinate, right? So depending upon the capability of the subordinate, the amount of job will be assigned to the subordinate by the manager, the amount of authority will be delegated to the subordinate, right? So when in an organization delegation of authority is being used, this term is being used, so it becomes a major function of the manager to keep on enhancing the capabilities of the employees or of the subordinates, because if the capabilities of the subordinates will be enhanced, the subordinates will be in a position to take more challenging jobs, right? And they will give more job and this will give more job satisfaction to the subordinates. Right? Now the disadvantages. The first problem is in decision making. See, the central management here is far removed from the actual operation where the decisions are made, because the subordinates are taking the decision. The manager themselves are not directly involved in the part of the work which they assigned to the subordinates, right? Because the manager has delegated the authority to, so the subordinates are taking the decisions. So the central management of the manager here is far removed from the actual operations. So it becomes at times very difficult to pinpoint the major problem when they occur, and the decisions are made by many subordinates. So the manager in totality face problem in decision making when they delegate their authority in decision making, right? The second is problem in coordinating. If coordination among these subordinates is not adequate, then confusion may result and it may become difficult to exercise control over procedures and policies. Now, in my previous video, I discussed about span of control. So span of control is the number of subordinates which a manager can manage under him, right? So if, let's take an example that a manager has got 4 subordinates under him. So his span of control is 4. Now a manager has got 100% of work, so he assigned 40% of the job in his subordinates. So 10% of job each subordinate has to do. But we should always remember that the complete job is related to each other, right? Because a manager has got a job to perform or got a work to do, and he delegated or he assigned a part of that work in his subordinates. Now, the number of subordinates can vary. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3. That depends. Now, when they are doing the work which is related to each other, so it becomes very important that there should be coordination among the subordinates. Right? If the subordinates are not coordinated, then ultimately there will be a lot of confusion. There will be problem in finding out the result. There will be problem in jotting down the outcomes properly, right? So it is very important to maintain a proper coordination among the subordinates. And if there is a lack in coordination, then the whole process of delegation will be in vain, because the main function of delegation of authority or assigning tasks to subordinate is to reduce the burden of manager. But if there will be problem in coordination, then in place of reducing the burden of manager, it will become more burdensome for the manager to find out the problem, right? Then the third one is capability of subordinates. Now, it is very difficult at times to perfectly match the task which is being assigned to the subordinate with the capability which he has. So if the task assigned to the subordinate is not in synchronization with the capability which he possesses, then it will happen that if a subordinate is more capable and he has got the task which is lesser than his capability, then he will feel demotivated that he has got the task which is not up to his level. And if a task is more challenging and the subordinate doesn't have that much of capability to do that, then he won't be able to perform the task effectively. The capability is an important factor which a manager needs to see while assigning tasks to them. And if there is difficulty in perfectly matching the task and capability, then again it will be a problem. So this is again one of the disadvantages of delegation. Now with this we come to the end of this topic. So do like and subscribe my channel, which is Simplified Basic Concepts. Thank you.